The Pickering Lumber Corporation has been considered by many to be one of the most spectacular logging railroad operations in the West. In the late 1950s, sections of the railroad's once expansive network of logging camps, spurs, and branch lines were all closed and abandoned in favor of logs being trucked into Soap Creek for transloading onto trains for the rest of their journey to the mill at Standard. Mainline operations on the railroad were dieselized with the purchase of 4 EMD SW9s by 1959. Steam was still active at the camp at Soap Creek into the early 60s, and the Pickering became California's last steam logging railroad. SW9 101 prepares another train of empties for the run up to the camp at Soap Creek. Heading east out of Standard, Pickering trains would operate over the Sierra Railroad on trackage rights to Ralph and the connection to their line up to the camp at Soap Creek. An SW9 returns to the mill after dropping a single boxcar off at the Standard Depot to be loaded with supplies. Number 101 is heading for the connection at Ralph as it makes its way east on the Sierra Railroad through Black Oak. The train diverges off of the Sierra Railroad and onto its own tracks at Ralph. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the use of Pickering locomotives as power on fan trips over the Sierra Railroad from Fassler to Ralph was a semi-regular occurrence. Sierra Railroad number 28 is cut off from its fan trip consist and will be replaced by Pickering 3-truck Shay number 8 for the run to Ralph during a Central Coast Railway Club 3 Steamers on the Sierra excursion on May 17, 1959. The number 8 digs into its climb to Ralph as it passes the mill at Standard. The climb continues as the Shay whistles for Standard Road. The climb is over for the number 8 as the train arrives into Ralph. Sierra Railroad 28 has followed behind the fan trip consist light engine and will perform a photo run-by at Ralph before taking the train on to Tuolumne. The number 8 begins its journey light engine back down to Fassler. Number 101 continues its journey to Soap Creek as it crosses Highway 108 east of Gurnee. Shay number 33 climbs the grade just above Beardsley with empties for Soap Creek. Soap Creek by the early 1960s was the last railroad logging camp in California. Number 33 spots, loads, and makes up another train of empties for more shipments of fresh timber. While steam was still handling most of the railroad operations in and around Soap Creek, more modern logging techniques had prevailed to get the logs from the woods and onto the waiting cars. The days of steam cranes and steam donkey engines are now over, as a Lima crane handles the loading of fresh-cut timber onto the waiting cars. Number 33 heads back to retrieve more empties for loading. Number 33 is a 90-ton 3-truck Shay built new by the Lima Locomotive Works in 1922 for the Hammond Lumber Company. The engine survived several corporate name changes and restructurings in Humboldt County before being sold to the Pickering Lumber Corporation in 1944, where it would stay in active service into the 1960s. Number 33 has grabbed a cut of loads and begins making up a train for another run down to Standard. The 33 will spot the loaded cars in the sidings at Soap Creek Pass Camp to be picked up by the following day's train from Standard, which will drop off another string of empties that have been unloaded at the mill. (1963) would be the last year of Pickering operations at Soap Creek, and the transloading of logs to railroad cars would take place at a new location at Junction Landing. The 33 heads down into Beardsley as a caboose hop where it will pick up more empties for Soap Creek. A motor car following behind 33 heads for the motor car shed at Beardsley as the train passes the cookhouse. A loaded train of logs from Soap Creek makes its way downgrade towards Beardsley. Two SW9s keep their loaded train in check as they make their way across the Beardsley Dam and down toward the Peeled Onion. Six cars separate the two units on this westbound train of 16 loads as it makes its way across Beardsley Dam. Another westbound makes its way downgrade toward the Peeled Onion. Number 33 makes its way around Edna Curve with a loaded train for Standard. A motor car makes its way west between Newell and Long Siding. Number 101 heads west as a caboose hop near Gurney. Number 33 arrives into Ralph and awaits clearance onto the Sierra Railroad for the last leg of its trip to Standard. On September 15, 1963, Pickering employees and their families boarded a train out of Standard for a round trip to Soap Creek, marking the end of railroad operations out of the remote logging camp. Shay 33 was the main power for a massive consist of SP gondolas and several flat cars fitted with benches. SW9s 101 and 102 have been placed throughout the train for additional assistance. The train is returning back to Standard and number 33 passes the junction with the old Eagle City branch and Shotgun Path. Number 33 has been cut off from the consist and backs down the service track for oil and water. Number 33 makes its way through line change, which utilizes part of the right-of-way of the old Crandall branch. The main line through this area was realigned as part of the Tri-Dam construction project, and the old main line can be seen branching off to the right, which is now a spur that serves a section house. train continues its journey down grade just below Rushing Meadows. Following the closure of Soap Creek Pass Camp, the condensed run to Junction Landing would be the final remainder of Pickering's railroad operations. On December 4th, 1965, an event was organized by Pickering to commemorate the last trainload of logs being carried over the railroad. Number 8 has been steamed up and proceeds light engine to pick up a trainload of logs that was reloaded at Fassler and moved into position by diesels for the engine to retrieve and take back to the mill. The engine heads back down the hill through Pickering Flat with its last train for Standard. Numerous photo run-bys were held at the Standard Depot, and a large crowd of rail fans are on hand to witness the end of steam railroad logging in California. Sacramento television station KCRA is also on location for these last runs, and the number 8 reverses for a fast charge back up to the depot for the TV cameras.
Oh, there you go, guys. What do you say?
Thank you.
We hear from engineer Bill Scott, who gives his thoughts on this last day of steam on the Pickering.
Engineer William Scott, how do you feel about this being your last run?
Well, there's no question but what we'll miss the engines and the men who work on them and the country we run through. We run through a terrifically scenic country, and I know we'll miss that too.
Thank you.
Come on, baby. Another whistle? Yes, please.
The photo run-bys continue as the number 8 blasts across Standard Road and back toward the depot. The number 8 reverses for one last run past the cameras with the log train. The sun has set on steam railroad logging in California as the number 8 rolls past as a caboose hop in the lengthening shadows. The last trainload of logs to arrive at the mill from Junction Landing would be on December 14, 1965. The final cleanup train ran on December 28th, and the Pickering's 56-year history of railroad logging in the Sierras had come to a close. On October 7, 1966, after being stored at Long Siding with Shay 33, Pickering Number 7 was steamed up with the consist of several cars to be moved to better storage at Lyons Lake. Freeway construction would end up severing the railroad's main line near Twain Hart, and one final inspection trip was made over the railroad for the board of directors of Pickering's new owners, the Fiberboard Corporation, on October 26, 1966, using leased rolling stock from the Sierra Railroad. Number 33's last run under steam was November 1st, 1966, when it was moved with the train to Lyons Lake for storage with Number 7, as plans were being made to revive the railroad as a tourist operation. In 1967, the Lyons Lake Resort leased a pair of speeders and trailers from the Fiberboard Corporation for operation over the Pickering between Lyons and Middle Camp for tourists. At Tramway, the passengers exchanged speeders to continue the rest of their journey over the line. This operation would continue for several more summer seasons into the early 1970s. The height of tourist railroad operations on the Pickering came on Labor Day weekend of 1971, when the Pacific Locomotive Association operated Shay Number 7 on trips between Middle Camp and Lyons Lake. Preparations were made for continued operation in 1972. However, with the Fiberboard Corporation disallowing further operation over the railroad, this would be the only weekend of steam tourist runs on the Pickering. In 1966, Pacific Coast Shay Number 11, built by Lima in 1929, was purchased by Tom Irian, and the engine was moved to the California Railway Museum in August of 1967. The museum, located at Rio Vista Junction on the Sacramento Northern, became the permanent home for the collection of equipment owned by the Bay Area Electric Railroad Association beginning in 1960. Number 11 was put back into operation shortly after its arrival at Rio Vista Junction, and the engine has been paired with Salt Lake and Utah Observation Control Trailer 751 for trips down the museum's tail track as part of the Spring Railway Festival in 1977. The engine will make its way onto the tail track after rolling through South Park Junction. 11 rolls back toward the shop to exchange passengers for another run down the tail track. As number 11 reverses back toward the shop, Cedar Rapids and Iowa City 111, a 1930 product of the Cincinnati Car Company, awaits clearance through South Park Junction and then proceeds down the tail track. In 1969, Pickering 11 was purchased by Gus Peterson, who planned to move the engine to Klamath, California for operation on his Klamath and Hoppo Valley Railroad. Those plans fell through with the gas crisis of the 1970s, and the 11 was purchased by the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad in 1981. The 90-ton Pacific Coast Shay returned to operation, hauling tourist trains in Washington state until being taken out of service in 2001, and has been the most recent surviving piece of Pickering equipment to operate in preservation.